Hey guys, I know I said that I would be making less videos and I have been, but I am interrupting my normal schedule to make a requested video. And this requested video is based on a vlog that I made for Vlogmas, and it was my experience as an empath, and I will leave links in the description and maybe the comments to that video if you are curious to watch that. But I'm just going to start off with reading the comment. This requested video is brought to you by Pt.2, and they said, I'd most like to hear detailed stories that could help me understand what it's like to have an empathic experience. Okay, and also, this comment's kind of long. I guess I'll edit it in here. It also says, I look for them every once in a while on YouTube, but haven't found any yet. Maybe you've done some, but this is the first video of yours I've seen. Ideally, I'd find a lot of them from many different people so I could get a sense of the range of empathic experiences. Maybe you wonder why I'm interested. I'm a spiritual seeker without much for spiritual experiences of my own. I'm on a path of inquiry, as my one strong spiritual gift is that of a thinker and researcher, so I investigate topics like this to try to get a sense of the range of human experience, thereby to get a sense of the nature of this reality. And it goes on, and we go back and forth, but I eventually just decided to make a video about this. So thank you so much to Pt.2, if I don't know how to pronounce that. You know who you are. Thank you for asking this question so other people can watch this video. Yeah, I guess just to start off from this comment, the first thing that I would like to say is that emotions are very simple things. They're not something to be overanalyzed. I often like to say that love is hard because it's very simple and we are not. And I kind of associate emotions and empathy and all that kind of stuff in the same way. It's very simple. It's not something to overanalyze. It's just when you feel a certain way, you feel a certain way. There's no magical thing about it. We live in a very emotional world, and I admire your desire to kind of approach it from an intellectual researcher kind of angle. I like to do that myself a lot of the time. But like I said in our comments, I do think that what's really important to say here is that you cannot simply quantify things that are qualitative. Okay, so yeah, this whole entire realm is very qualitative. It's very subjective. There's no way to really analyze or measure it. It's just an experience. It's just a person and their experience, and that's it. And for us who are very intellectual and very left-brained, it makes these topics kind of frustrating sometimes when we don't understand them, because sometimes that's our only way of understanding things. And I think that that's why it's so important to do certain spiritual practices and work regarding things like your inner child, because that will open you up to this kind of stuff, and things like, just like peaceful meditations on going past the observable universe, and I think that's getting in your heart space, especially these days, can be particularly difficult because a lot of our daily functions ask us to not be in that space, not be in that inner child space. So yeah, I'm kind of straying away from what you actually want, but I just wanted to start off with saying that before I dive into some of the experiences that I've had. And certainly, if anyone watching right now is interested in what I've said so far, please check out my original video that I made on this because I already talk about some of the experiences that I've had as an empath, and some of them being really common, like having a hard time watching very gory or meaninglessly violent movies. And it's very important to say, like, the meaningless part, because some movies are just made with horror and violence for shock factor, and that's it. And some has meaningful experiences tied into that, so there's like a very, very deep moral reasoning lesson along with the violence and what's happening. That's why Cloud Atlas is my favorite movie. And if you watch that movie, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of very graphic scenes, but it's for a very deep purpose. And in instances like that, even though watching that is very stressful, I know why I'm watching that. I can see that it's about the human story. It's about something much deeper, and it's not just to make me upset, So, again, I'm kind of straying away from the question here, but I just kind of want to slowly get into this topic because, like I said, it is so subjective. And I think anyone approaching it like this needs to really kind of understand that it's just so simple that if you overthink it, you'll miss it, if that makes any sense. So, some experiences that I've had as an empath. I spent a great deal of time trying to figure out, in my off hours at work or, before I go to bed, just been thinking about this question, what kind of very specific experiences that I've had. And this is a very hard question to answer because there's not many very specific instances when in empathy where it's suddenly oh, that was an empath experience and everything else is not. Your whole entire life is empathy. So it's hard to pin down very specific moments that help help people understand what it's like, if that makes any sense, other than just here's what my average day is like as an empath. But I do feel like I could talk about one of my earliest memories as a child. I think it is my earliest memory, although it's hard to tell. And that was when I was 3 years old, and it was my first day of preschool. And that's a very important day for a lot of people because it's the first day that you leave your mom for a period of time. You're kind of on your own. And it's the first time that you interact with real life people outside of your family. So it's kind of a traumatic day for most 3-year-olds. You get a lot of tears. It's very upsetting. You have to go leave your family and be with these strangers. So that's probably why I remember this. But I remember, saying goodbye to my mom and being very sad about that. But then getting distracted with some other things. It's a preschool. They got some cool stuff. They have toys and crayons and things, and I was into that. So I remember the day going on, and this is my first time in my life interacting with other children my age. And this is the first time being around kind of strangers, adults, outside of just, everyday stuff. And I just remember feeling different. And I remember, because you're not around your same family members anymore who you're just used to. And I remember looking around at the other kids and honestly just being horrified by them. And it's really strange. When I was a kid, I did not like children. I did not want to be around children. And it is because I just thought they were so self-involved. It's really hard to explain. I'm not I'm explaining this from like an adult perspective. So there is like a very childlike innocence, a very simplistic layer to this that is hard to articulate in my, what was going on in my child brain. But I just like remember like looking at other kids and like hating them, like not wanting to be around them. And it was because they were like very just needy. And I would look at the adults and could feel that they were stressed. I could feel that they had a lot to handle because, it's a room of children. So they have a lot of responsibility. I sensed that responsibility that they had. And I, as a child, kind of just like wanted to try the best I could to not make their lives harder. And then I'm around the sea of children for the first time who think their snack time is more important than anyone else's snack time, and their behavior is affecting the atmosphere of the entire classroom, and they don't care, and they don't care that they're consuming all the adults' time. Like, it was just wild to me. I was just like, I remember thinking like, wow, I can't wait to leave. Like, I hate children. And it's so strange because like I was a child. And you might be wondering, like, what the heck does this have to do with empathy? And to me, empathy is about awareness. It's about observing your environment, understanding on an esoteric, empathic level that you are not an individual, you are a piece of a whole. And your participation in that affects the whole. And I've read a lot of psychology books, and like you're not supposed to have that when you come in. Like you don't like really start to realize that until later in life that like you were kind of like, I guess, born all selfish and in a state of need. But like I remember being a kid and going without asking for things. Like if I wanted a snack, but it would have to take an adult to stop what they're doing and like go get that for me, I wouldn't ask for a snack. I'd go without stuff just because I didn't want to be that like nuisance, and I think that comes from my personal understanding of empathy, which is, like I said, it's awareness. It's like an emotional intelligence of other people around you, that you are not an individual but a piece of something that's much bigger than yourself, and what you do affects other people, and you can't really ignore that because that's your reality. Like that's, I think, to me at least, the origin of empathy, because I literally can't ignore what that person is feeling, because I'm there's like very little separation between me and that person. There, in empathy, truly is no separation in things. And from a philosophical perspective, we're not separate. We're just reorganized particles of Earth, all of us, that like came from stars. So we're just like weird organizations of the same thing, and we are not separate in the way that we kind of go about our lives thinking that we are. And that's why I talk a lot about separation consciousness in my videos, because we always kind of like have to fight that and come up against that. We always kind of have to recognize the manifestations of that. Greed is an aspect of separation consciousness, narcissism, selfishness, the ego. These are all manifestations of what I call separation consciousness, this idea that we're all just individuals having our own experience, and that's all that is, which is not true. So that's, I think, like an origin story of an empath, if that makes any sense. I hope that's useful to you. And then when I got older, like I said in that original video, I think that when you're a child, you're just raw emotion. It's when we become adults, like I said, those senses become dulled. It's like those sensors kind of just become adjusted to the fact that everything in life is assaulting. So you adjust to that. And especially for me, because I grew up on Long Island, which is basically a city. The population is like a city. You got like 8 million people on this stretch of like 100 and something miles. It's like the population of Norway on this tiny block of sand. So, you kind of have to just simply adjust to the cacophony of other people's everything. And then you grow up and you become less sensitive to these things. And I have had some very strange, like, physical experiences that have disturbed me more than interested me. And I think this is when we come into the realm of the clairs, as they call it. The claircognizance, the different things that you can sense, like some people connect to stuff like visually, like they see stuff. Just Google it if you're curious, like you'll find some stuff pretty quickly. And I think it comes eventually to this point of like empathy could potentially be some kind of extrasensory perception, because you're like reaching out with your feelings, you feel other people's stuff. And I find that as an adult, even though I don't really feel that much from strangers anymore, no matter what I do, no matter how many cord cutting exercises I do, no matter how many walls that I put up, and I've put up so many walls, I cannot disconnect from people who I am emotionally close with. So like my family members and my friends. And I have had some really strange experiences like that made me question, like, what else am I getting from this person that I think is mine but is not mine? And I'll now, I guess, explain some of those experiences. The first one that comes to mind is when I was in high school, and my best friend and I were just like sitting on the couch, hanging out, watching some television. We were both on our phones, I guess, like noodling around. And then all of a sudden, I tasted, I kid you not, shrimp cocktail. I thought this was strange. I was just like sitting on the couch and I was like, And then I turned to my friend and I say, I think I want shrimp cocktail and I don't know why. And then she like stops what she's doing on her phone and like shows it to me. And she's like typing in a text to someone about shrimp cocktail, I guess like a menu item for something. And I'm like, okay. That's weird. So I guess I have like taste, I'm thinking. Do I have like clair taste? I don't even think there's a word for that, but am I like, do I have taste ESP? Very strange. But after that, I'm thinking to myself, like, what else am I picking up on people that I'm not realizing and thinking that it's mine? Because here I'm just like sitting there thinking like, I feel like I want to eat shrimp cocktail, thinking that's my own thoughts, but it's a very strange, random coincidence that this person is just talking about shrimp cocktail to someone. So anyway, that's one experience. Another, unfortunately, very stressful experience that I had was when my dad was at-home hospice care, and my mom and I were basically, unfortunately, just helping him die. He had a brain tumor. He couldn't talk, he couldn't walk around anymore. Eventually all his bodily functions were starting to fail, and we were just there helping him die. And that's what at home hospice care is like, if anyone is curious. It's unfortunately, unless you have like some amazing rich person insurance, you're doing most of the work. Like someone will come and like help bathe them and comb their hair and stuff, but you're helping them go to the bathroom day in and day out, and it's really a lot. And as you can imagine, my mom was going through a lot during that entire period. And she has high blood pressure and has always had nosebleeds her whole life because of it. She takes medication for it. I fortunately kind of take after my dad in that way, in that I've never had high blood pressure, despite the fact that I eat way too much salt. my favorite food's pickles and like potatoes and stuff like that. So I'm not sure why. I've always had low blood pressure, but yeah. So my mom has always had high blood pressure, and as you can imagine, it was higher than normal as we were going through this experience, and she was unfortunately getting a lot of nosebleeds during this time. It was awful. It was an awful time, and I was stressed out about it too. And then my mom, that same day, had a nosebleed. And then I think a few hours later, I went into the shower and had my first nosebleed of my life. I don't get nosebleeds. People who do like kind of get it, like your anatomy or like your blood pressure or like certain factors make you prone to having nosebleeds. So for someone who like never had one before, it was like shocking, and I just, it was like one of those things where I was like I got it while I was in the shower, and it was just like pouring out of my face, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, I didn't even feel like my body was my body anymore. So yeah, like you could argue that like, wow, you probably had high blood pressure because you were going through the stress of this situation too. And that could be. That might not be like a weird physical thing. Oh, sorry. Sorry for the ding. I'm going to turn that off. What I'm trying to get at here is that I think that when you're like living with people and when you just have to be around people, especially your friends and your family members, and you're around them a lot of the time, and you have a connection with these people, whether you want to or not, it just, you develop certain physical ailments around them that they have, or that is what they're going through. Like, if I've even had weird random situations where like that person has a stomach ache, so now I have a stomach ache, and that was especially true when I was a kid. Like, my stomach hurt constantly. In fact, I think that was like a sign of like something is stressful that's happening, or there's like a bad person around. It was like always a stomach ache. So like, I think that's why, as like a lot of empaths who go through this, we really prefer to be alone, because if we're not alone, it's almost like our lives aren't our own. I can't hear myself think. I'm distracted by that other person, because it's like they're not really in charge of their life in the way like some independent people are, and they're just kind of like draining physically. Like, most people, it's not even like bad people, it's just people are generally like this because they've never had to be in charge of their own energy. They've never had to really think about what they're putting out there, because they don't know what it's like to be an empath. And whether you like it or not, you're just feeling whatever the heck is going on in the room. And that, those experiences are the experiences that have scared me the most and made me like really want to distance myself from everyone and everything, and cut people out of my life, and put up very, very sturdy walls and cut a lot of cords. Is because like, when you're that sensitive, like, your life isn't your own anymore. You're just, you have to constantly wonder, like, is this mine? And I think eventually when you do get older, you can't kind of tell, especially if you've spent some time alone, and then versus with other people, you notice that you just don't really like yourself when you're around certain people anymore. Like, you just don't really like how you feel and who you are. And that's why I'm a big believer in just like eliminating entire friend groups if you have to, because they affect who you are, even when you're not an empath. And that brings me to the next part of this video. I don't classify people as empathic or not empathic. I believe every single human being has this emotional connection around them, whether they know it or not. Just some people are more aware of it. For some people, it's stronger. I don't know why, but whether you think or not, you are not separate from the people around you. And I think that it's really good to acknowledge that too, because what if you are living with someone just because you have to, and maybe you're not really a fan of, how that person goes about their life, or maybe they're going through something very difficult. If you at least know that that person might be affecting your own mental and emotional health, you can acknowledge that and then make some decisions to help that. So you also are not like feeding off of whatever the heck is going on with that, so that you are not negatively impacted either mentally, emotionally, or physically from that situation. But yeah, I really do think that people are, like, all people are intuitive, all people are empathic. It's not like for people who are special and for people who are not special, like a lot of spirituality likes us to believe. It is just an inherent part of the human race that we don't acknowledge. Like, that's just some woo-woo stuff that's, unfortunately, I think should be present early on in the classroom, like with meditation, helping people connect to themselves so that they're aware and they can, not be these draining life forces on the people around them, but instead be realizing, oh, I am a piece of a whole and everything I do impacts everything around me, including myself, because there is no separation. So to me, that's what it means to be an empath, and I hope those experiences were helpful to you. You asked a lot of other questions, so I'm just gonna skim through them and see if I can say anything about them, like if I have anything else to add to this. Yeah, you ask some really specific questions that are not unfortunately relevant to empathy, because they just aren't. I don't know how else to put it. Like for example, you think that it is located in an organ. You ask, do these feelings travel up the arm or move from organ to organ or congregate in particular organs? It has nothing to do with organs. It's about emotions, which are not located in organs. They're just, I don't know how else to explain this. It's just have you ever felt anything in your life? When you have a test and you're nervous, you feel nervous. You know how when someone dies and you're grieving, you're sad? You feel sad. And that's not located in an organ or anything. That's just how it is. And then I think I answered some of these questions in my experiences, or at least I hope I did. This is an interesting question. Where in your body would you say you live? And as an Aquarian, someone who associates with the Aquarius the most, someone who's mostly their chart consists of Aquarius, I feel like I'm not in my body a lot of the time. I feel like my body is like a flesh prison. I feel like a weird alien looking at humans, much like that child on the first day of preschool looking at everyone and thinking, what's wrong with you? Unfortunately, as I grew older, I thought as a kid from that experience and from having to go to school and interact with other kids that I didn't like children. But it's unfortunately, now I realize that I just don't like human beings as they are naturally, which is unfortunately seems to be from a selfish point of view. Because I'm 27 now, and I'm looking at my peers and they still think their snack time is the most important. They are very self-involved. That seems to be a natural human chimp, thing. I don't really know how to explain that. I hear a lot of people say, I believe that people are naturally good and we really all just want to make the best choice. And because of this experience, I kind of disagree. I really truly feel like the human condition is a disability, and we're all born with these urges to self-preserve and be tribal and separate and divide. And our entire lives is about choosing love instead of that, choosing compassion and instead of that, trying to figure out, that there is so much more to experience and to life and to everything than your own experience and, so many different things. So I think that, I don't know, just I think life is just about our choices, period. And I do think that we're born with this like chimp mentality to be tribal and to separate, and every day that we acknowledge that and make different choices, like that's what it's all about right there. That's kind of like a different topic, but I guess related maybe. You also ask here, to what extent is any particular like experience dependent on reading facial expressions, body language, and other physical cues? It is entirely, and I say that with 100% confidence, related to examining people's facial expressions, because say a person is angry or say someone is happy, that could be for so many different reasons. And if you are carefully observing to people's reactions to a situation, you can develop reasoning behind that. You can be like, I'm feeling like this person is tense about something, and then just like looking at them and seeing that's they're actually, instead of, I don't know, looking angry, they are kind of happy, and it could be because they're excited about something, So you could, confuse nervous tension with excited tension. There's different kinds of tension. So the human experience, like I said, is not quantitative. It's really qualitative. So when you are able to observe people, and I think that's really, you could argue, for someone who doesn't believe in empathy, you could really argue just empathy being people who are very observant, and I certainly am, and just going off of those observations, and they have a good point. They really do. It's just like when weird stuff happens, like, I don't know, I feel like someone neglected to do a thing, and then I see it manifest in their life. It's really like, it's really hard to explain some things and then really easy to explain others based on that. So I don't know where to go from there, but that's something worth talking about and worth acknowledging. Do you ever feel as if you are the other person with whom you're having an experience with? No, I never lose myself. I'm just like really stubborn, so I know what is me and what is not me, and I think that's just like a personal trait, except for when confusing stuff happens. Like I said, when I'm with a very close friend and I'm tasting something and I think I want it, but it's, like it's hard to explain. Do you have any reason to think that when you're feeling another person, they're also feeling you? No, unfortunately, I really think that most people experience life just solely, unfortunately, from their own ego, which that's another, I made a video on that, what is ego, that talks about like, what I'm talking about when I mean that, when I say that right now. That's in my reflections playlist. I don't really think that anyone, I just look at the human race and I see people who just have a horrible time connecting. We have a problem with connection, and we see that every day. A lot of addicts, a lot of recovered addicts, a lot of psychologists say that addiction stems from this lack of connection, or that's one of the reasons why that happens. We are so disconnected with everything, that so much so that we abuse the earth, the thing that is responsible for our very existence. We abuse each other, the people that we love. Look at what we do to women. So I just think that everyone is, to me, Earth has always been like this psychopathic hellscape. And some people have recognized that and are working through it and trying to like reconnect with what's real and, do all the important stuff and be advocates of love. And that's beautiful. So, the bright side of that is that while all this other stuff is going on, some people are truly overcoming this and, I guess, ascending, as you could say. So it's not all bad. But I really like just most people that are in my life, and that's, I guess, karmic or what I've chosen, I can tell, like, have a really hard time just knowing what's real, what's not real, and then connecting with life. And I don't think that's unique to them. I think most people are like that. And so it's a very lonely experience because you see everyone and you feel everyone, but no one ever sees you, ever. And that is just something that I will have to struggle with my entire life. It's just so incredibly isolating to never be seen and never be, in a way, loved in a way that I could be loved, because no one's ever going to know who you are. No one's ever going to sense the deeper person there, other than, you know, the shallow aspects of how we relate to people, like your interests. And I don't know, people are really basic. This is just all I'm gonna say. And like, people who are like this, I feel like, you know, you can sense the deeper meaning of life. And you can see people in such beautiful ways, and you know that no one ever really sees you like that, and it's really hard. I'm trying to not like end it on such a depressing note there. I'm trying to like find the light in this situation. I don't know, I guess I would like to end this video with saying that despite how hard it is being an empath in a hellscape called Earth, it's worth it, because the capacity for me to feel the traumas of having to live in a world where someone is abducted every day and sexually used as a thing, and then you know, there's like rape and murder and just abuse of every color and the rainbow, you know, despite having to like live with the stress of the limitations of Earth, etc., the things that this leads to. Thanks to my empathy, I can gaze into the ocean and sense all that is and be a member of the universe in a way that I think most people struggle with. They have forgotten that knowledge. They have forgotten that way of being. They're so lost in the karmic wheel of everything, and they are never really wanting to look away from that because they believe that's all that is now. To me, that is infinitely more sad than having the ability to go outside right now, take a drive to the beach, and feel the universe and feel a sacred heart there, and understand that I am everything. and I guess what, you know, some religious people would say is being connected to God, what I call source. You know, I know my origin because I can sense it in a way that you can't really logically deduce something. It can't be logically deduced because it's not logical. And it would be, in an ironic way, illogical to think that everything is, in order to understand everything, you need to approach everything from one angle or through logic or whatever. We're in a very expansive, complex, convoluted place that cannot be really like pinned down. And having equal logical and emotional processes through this experience has given me a sense of like grounded, ethereal peace that I do not see in many people. It is a kind of faith that is hard to articulate. It is a kind of existence that is hard to describe. But I hope that in making this video, this helped some people who are curious about empathy to just, you know, get another perspective from it. And I encourage every single person here to, you know, look at other other stories, ask other people what they think about it, because there's simply no, I think, completely right answer to these questions. It's so subjective, like I said. And I'm so grateful, like I said, to be empathic so that I can be who I am today. And again, thank you so much for asking this questions. Thank you so much for making this video possible. I am still taking these requested videos, even though I'm making less videos. So if you have a question, or if you have watched one of my videos and would like me to elaborate on something else like I did here, please let me know. I'd be happy to do that. It's pretty simple when I don't have to like plan a video, but I can just like sit down and read a comment and just react. This doesn't take much time. So yeah, again, thank you so much, and please like, comment, and subscribe so that those who are meant to find this video and those who are meant to find my channel can. Check out all the links in the description. I do monthly readings still. If you are missing my content, you can, sign up for stuff there and get more personal content. And I am making more Patreon posts, so that's a thing if you want more content from me. And I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, everything that's relevant is in the description. And I will see you all very soon with the April forecast video that's coming up real fast. I hope you have a lovely week or weekend whenever you are watching this, and take care, everyone. Bye.